My name is Chris Cook, and I'm the Executive Vice President for Marketing at First Financial Bank. Thank you for being here today. Welcome to our panel discussion on marketing and e-commerce for small business. Today we hope to shed light on a topic that holds immense relevance in our rapidly evolving business landscape. In an era where competition is fierce and consumer behavior is constantly evolving, marketing and e-commerce have emerged as the lifeblood of small businesses. It is the bridge that connects small business owners with their target audience, enabling them to showcase their unique offerings, build brand awareness, and ultimately drive growth and success. Understanding limited resources may be a roadblock. Small businesses need to be strategic, creative, and resourceful in their marketing endeavors. It is through effective marketing techniques that they can level the playing field and carve out a niche for themselves in a crowded marketplace. Marketing for small businesses is not just about selling products or services. It encompasses a comprehensive set of activities that includes identifying customer needs and desires, crafting compelling messages, selecting appropriate communication channels, and building lasting relationships with customers, the latter of which cannot be overstated. Today, our panel of experts will share their insights, experiences, and strategies for effective marketing and e-commerce in the context of small businesses. We hope this panel discussion will not only inspire and enlighten you, but also provide you with practical takeaways that you can apply to your own small business ventures. So let's get started. I'd like to ask each member of the panel to introduce themselves and provide some background on their professional careers, and we'll start with Zell.
Good morning. I'm Zell McGhee. I work for the Small Business Development Center here in Abilene at Texas Tech University. I am a veteran, retired veteran from the United States Air Force, serving 26 years of active duty. I worked for 9 years after that underneath the Air Force Services Directorate as a NAF career employee, operating their businesses, small businesses on the military installation, which a lot of people don't understand that we actually have in the military. After that, got picked up by the SBDC, been working there for a few years now, and I'm happy to be here. I'm a graduate of Hardin-Simmons University. Yay, go Cowboys.
Okay, Holly.
Go down the line. I am Holly Blackwell. I am the owner of H2M Solutions, which is a marketing company here in Abilene. I've been doing this for 17 years. Started out as a very sole proprietor, did a lot of it all on my own, long before there was a YouTube or a Facebook, and have been helping I have over 80 clients that range in size from a one-truck service industry to multi-million-dollar companies. And I now have 9 to 10 employees and 3 sets of developers, and so help quite a variety of businesses with their marketing needs.
Good morning. I'm Paul Mason. I'm the Dean of the Johnson School of Business at McMurry University and Professor of Economics for the next 13 days, at which point I'm going to retire, and I'm happy for it. I'm an economist, and so I'm going to look at things a little differently than I suspect the others on the panel, because I'm going to take a macroeconomic view, which is the major variables within the economy and just how e-commerce has influenced those variables.
Well, thanks, guys. Good morning. I'm Jessica Adams. My husband and I own Vagabond Pizza here in downtown Abilene. Thank you. I am going to keep up my bribes later this morning. I'll check in with you in a bit. And while we have such an illustrious panel, I believe I am here to ask you to do as I say, not as I do. I can give you all the examples of how this shouldn't have worked today. So thanks for being here. Let's see if we can't share some wisdom.
All right, thank you. First question, we'll start with Jessica. When Vagabond opened, how did you begin marketing the business, and how has your marketing strategy evolved since then?
Thank you, Chris. This is most of my marketing strategy. Get in front of people that are hungry. No, honestly, we started as a food truck in 2012. So that was, checks calendar, more than a decade ago. Anybody that has a 5th grader, they were just being born, just in case you like really rude math, all right? 2012 was a really different world for marketing. It seems a little conceited to say that because, right, that couldn't have been that long ago. We couldn't have changed that much. But for a food truck, we could post on Twitter where we were going to go, and that showed up on your feed right about that time. This was a little bit before we started even understanding what algorithms were outside of pre-cal class. And so we were able to get in front of people's feeds and honestly kind of practice what we're doing for the day, for where we're at right now. So how has that evolved? Fast forward 10 years, I've got a brick and mortar restaurant. So if I'm really doing it right, you already know where I'm at. I don't need to tell you that every day. And there are algorithms, there are social media multiple platforms with different goals, different personalities in the platform themselves. And I'm still here trying to hawk pizza and beer, sometimes wine, hint, hint, just again, that shameless plug. So what are our strategies? How does that evolve? The goal still is, for my business, find hungry people, right? That is the simplest goal I can get to. And there's my first piece of advice. Figure out how to simplify what you're going after. What are you selling? What services are you trying to offer? If you had to explain it in your quickest elevator pitch, what is your business trying to accomplish? And that's where we can start the easiest way of how to market it. Because there are so many options out there. If you try to tackle all of them, it's a really good way to fail at most of them. So there's my first little nugget of wisdom. And apparently, again, this is the how not to do it, guys. So let's let the ones that have experienced all the right ways go after it.
Thank you. Holly, when you work with clients, describe the process you work through to, one, ensure the company is a fit, and two, to begin preparing the plan for the client. And what do the two parties need to bring to the table when you start?
Very good question, and actually I'll kind of piggyback off of Jessica because most people come wanting a strategy or a tactic, and I try and get them to back up and really look at the things that she was talking about, because most companies come to me and they do not know who their client is, they don't know what their actual message is, and they're wanting to try something. What a lot of them actually really want is an easy button that just brings them clients that are ready to buy. But if you don't know who those clients are, you don't know what the message that they actually react to or are looking for, and you don't know where they are, then, like she said, she had all three of those, and I don't think it was by accident. I think it's because she actually took the time to think about those things, and she had all three of those, and that's what we try to get them to bring to the table. And a lot of times we do what we call forensic marketing. We dig for those things, and so we help them look at their past clients, or if they're a brand new business, we help them look at who they really want, and we help them craft all three of those things. So it's the message, the market, and then where they are, the media. So those are the things that we bring to the table, is to actually help somebody to tell their story so that it attracts the right clients, and then spend the right money because they're putting it in the right media, and so that they're bringing people who are looking for what they're doing and actually ready to buy. So
Great. Zell, what role can the Small Business Development Center play in assisting local small businesses from idea to open to sustaining that business?
That is a very strong question. From the aspect of idea to establishing their idea, our main focus is to try and get small business owners to understand their why, because many business owners start a business, they don't really understand why they're starting a business. The question we ask is, why are you starting your business? They come in and say, to make money. That's a given. We all open a business to make money, or we open a business because we want to pursue our dream. So we help them to try and find their why, and I get into the weeds with them and dig down deep and say, what are you doing? Are you building a legacy? Or are you trying to open a business so that you can sell it off in 6 years, be an entrepreneur, or go into another business? And that's an important aspect of it. The design phase, we actually provide resources and help them find resources that they need to develop their business in the way that they want to, in the lowest cost way. I look at things that I try and help them find things that are free, because I'm all about free. That's important. Keep their expenses low and their revenue high. So I try and help them find things through the available resources that are out there. If we don't have them, if we can't do it, if we can't support them, we send them to the agencies that can. Like, I work with a lot of veterans, so I send them over to the VBOC, the Veterans Business Outreach Center. I'll send them to the Texas Veterans Commission for assistance. I try to send all our business that we work with, all of our clients, to the Texas Workforce Commission. So we work with our partner organizations to help them out. That is a valuable thing for them. And I'm sorry, what was the last part? I'm getting old.
That's okay. How do you help them sustain that? Or how long are you involved in the process?
It is not a one and done when we deal with clients. It is a lifelong relationship. So what happens is once they come into our system, they get registered in. I will assist them. I have clients that we hadn't seen in 5 or 6 years, and they've come back out saying, hey, I need assistance with my business. And we go back into the system, we pull up their record, we see what they've done, what has been done, and we help them. Sometimes it's with the existing business, sometimes it's with a new business. So a lot of business owners will open their business and then they'll get to a point where, I need to expand, so how do I do that? And we will help them with that. Or they're going into, they want to seek government contracting, so we turn around and send them over to the Apex Accelerator to help them with that. It's a continuation. It's lifelong. So, yeah.
Thank you. Dr. Mason, from an economist's view, what transformational impact has e-commerce had on GDP growth, employment, productivity, trade and consumer behavior, and how do these impacts shape industries, labor markets, and trade patterns?
Well, that's a mouthful. The reality is that e-commerce has revolutionized everything about business. If you think back 30 years, virtually everything was brick and mortar. If they didn't have it, you might have to wait weeks to get it. But now, virtually every day, Amazon leaves a box outside of my gate for something my wife has ordered online. And we're getting it faster and faster, and we're getting exactly what we want. So it's had a huge impact. But there is a downside too, and that is it's led to a decline in brick and mortar locations for retailing in particular. And as a consequence, those jobs in retailing are no longer there. Those facilities are empty or they're being repurposed. The reality is there are trade-offs between the positives of e-commerce and the negatives, but e-commerce would have failed if it didn't have more positives than the negatives that it was causing. And so as a consequence, it's just like any other technological improvement. It makes the marketplace better. It affects labor markets. There are no longer jobs working at JCPenney's or certainly Sears, but there are more jobs working for Amazon and Walmart. The trade aspect in e-commerce, businesses are looking for the cheapest product that is of quality to be able to sell. And many times, because labor costs are much lower in other countries, it has enhanced trade to try and satisfy those needs. So the supply chain has become much more important. GDP is probably growing more rapidly than anybody could have imagined 30 years ago because of the facility of buying products, getting them quickly, being provided with advertising for other products through an electronic means. But even that has a downside, which is people have become accustomed to ignoring those advertising messages that flash in front of them when they're trying to watch a ball game or they're trying to find a particular product, then ignoring the follow-ups that they get as the search engines track your behavior. That has weakened some of the advantage of the marketing. But it also has opened opportunities for small businesses to find a niche that can satisfy the consumers who want to buy local or believe in the local product. So it's really a mixed bag, but I'd say for the most part it's been more positive than negative.
Thank you. I'd like to ask a follow-up to that. Talk about the brick and mortars that have slowly disappeared or being repurposed. What does e-commerce look like since COVID? Because we see, especially I think the restaurant industry has greatly benefited. At least that would be my impression. How has e-commerce been affected since COVID?
Well, during COVID, with all of the constraints, the restaurants and other businesses recognized that they could make as much money or even more money through takeout. And that's continuing. If you look at restaurants here in Abilene, they still have 5 or 10 takeout spaces. People are still coming and picking up food that they've ordered online. It has created an industry that delivers that food to the people who order it online. All of that has come as a consequence of COVID, and it's not going to go back, particularly with the high rates of inflation that we've been dealing with over the last year and a half, and the fact that if you go to a restaurant and you eat and you pay the higher prices for the food, and in particular the higher prices for the drinks, and then pay the tip, as opposed to buying in the grocery store your drinks and just ordering the food and eating it at home, it has revolutionized that, but it's a way around the high prices of eating out. So it's impacted the restaurants in particular, but it's really across the board.
Thank you. I think we could talk that. That's interesting. We talked that topic all day. But Jessica, I do want to ask you about social media. And I think we all agree marketing food, pictures are necessary. What is your philosophy or plan when creating your content?
First off, you're right. Food is, you eat with your eyes first. So that really, social media is really an easier spot for me to market, because if I'm making even decent food, a little bit of lighting and an iPhone in portrait mode, haha, I've got content. So there's the starter spot to it. But we just heard, and I'm sure we've all realized, whether we could verbalize it or not, eating out's expensive. If that is your regular approach to your meals, you've either recently gone bankrupt or you're trying to figure out a new approach to it. So now, if I do want your time and energy and dollars, which I kind of need, now I've got to sell a whole experience. And so, yes, if you scroll, which please don't scroll too far into our social media feeds, or if you do, Vagabond Pizza at Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. If you scroll, you're going to see a content that was pretty unimpressive. For one, I have been a little stubborn and just tried to take a picture, put it on the internet, and hope it hit. Over time, have learned what works a little bit better, have researched other accounts. Forensic marketing is a brilliant phrase that I'm going to adapt because it makes it sound a lot more smart when I'm just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. It's now research purposes. But when you learn what other practices have been helping. And for us, yes, selling food on the internet started with just a quick picture. Here's a pizza. Do you like it? Come eat it. Here's our location. Again, food truck habits. But now I need to sell this whole experience. Now I need to sell that paying our prices for a glass of beer or a glass of wine makes some sense because you're getting a whole experience with it. So how do I sell you an experience? And how do I do that well on a social media platform that has changed those algorithms over the years? Well, now we've got to do a little bit more video. We've got to do a little bit more audio. We might even need to play in with some of the trends on social media platforms to keep people's attention and encourage them, almost play into a little bit of fear of missing out, right? A little bit of FOMO can work in my favor. If I have a really cool piece of content online, you just caught it scrolling because you were researching for your business, then maybe I can entice you that maybe while you're working on your business and you've got limited time and resources, well, we could still spend that having a little bit of relaxation, eating pizza and drinking a little bit of wine. So how does social media play into that? Part of it is figuring out, again, who am I reaching out to and how do I get them excited about it? Sometimes that is a simple little post, partially because we're playing into those algorithms. And if you're not active on those platforms, you won't get your big posts that you want the content generation, and the leads aren't going to be seen. So sometimes it is a simple post. Sometimes it takes a little bit of energy to plan out some content. And sometimes that energy legitimately is scrolling other accounts, doing a little bit of research on their platforms. Or it's working with professionals that do this on a regular basis, right? If you are working on your own small business and you know your passion and your skill set, maybe the piece you're taking away today is find the professionals that their passion and skill set is the marketing piece. There's a bridge there of being really stubborn and doing it yourself versus understanding yourself and going, maybe it's time to lighten up and delegate a little bit. I believe I've pivoted at least 4 different times from your original question. My apologies for waxing poetic here. But I think, can social media be important? Absolutely. There's the short answer. But what is it? How do you make it important for your business so it's more than just scrolling? And that's where I'm going to go back to and really harp on who are you trying to sell to and where are they at, right? I'm trying to sell, quite frankly, pretty expensive pizza. So me hanging out on TikTok and appealing to the 13 to 15-year-olds, it's fun, and I'm growing that because I need to, because when they're 25-year-olds, I want their business, and I need to be at least a relevant source to them. But honestly, I'm going to spend a lot more of my energy on Instagram because I need that 25 to 45-year-old that wants the experience, that will pay a little bit more whenever they do go out. And some of us are still old fuddy-duddies that don't like video because when I'm out in public, I don't want to embarrass myself with whatever I'm listening to, and it's on loud, and I'm now still feeling silly. So I can use the stills on Instagram or Facebook. But that's also being aware of who my market is. If I am trying to sell athletic cleats, I'm going to need those 15-year-olds on TikTok who need the coolest new thing for their baseball gear. And I'm going to have to adapt my marketing because that's who I'm looking to reach. So I think I circled back. I'm sorry.
That was fine. That was good. Thank you. I think one of the takeaways from that is someone that's not maybe well equipped with social media or has dealt with it a lot, particularly in marketing, is repetition. Just trying things out until something feels right and works. But I think that's great advice. Holly, what are some effective paid advertising channels for small businesses, and how can they maximize the return on investment?
I'm going to start with the return on investment because, quite honestly, that is a ROI is what people ask about first, generally. Well, they come with wanting something specific in marketing usually, and I usually have to turn them around and ask about the ROI. What are their numbers? And knowing your numbers is essential to knowing ROI, because if you don't know your numbers, then we don't know how to calculate that ROI. But starting with a good foundation is probably the number one. It doesn't matter what your numbers are. It doesn't matter what your business is. You can pour money into a leaky bucket, and all you're going to do is waste that money. And so I tell people, if you do not have a good foundation, and that foundation would be a converting website, a consistent online presence that has the right phone number, the right address, if you've moved around quite a bit, or you've had 1-800 numbers or different phone numbers, and you don't fix that, then you're just shooting yourself in the foot. You've got holes in your bucket. And so there's all sorts of places where if I have watched repeatedly people just pour money into the marketing thinking that the marketing is going to fix the problem. And all you do is you put yourself out of business faster because you've just got a leaky bucket. And so fixing your online presence, having a converting website, not just a website that says we have great customer service, because that should be a given in your business. You should know what converts, and that goes right back to exactly what Jessica's been talking about. If you don't know your market and you don't understand what they are, what speaks to them and what converts them into a client, then all you are doing with your advertising dollars is you are paying for your best competitor's business. So if you don't have good reviews, and I've watched this happen repeatedly. I've heard story after story of we don't understand why our marketing isn't working. I go and look, and they've got 3 or 4 phone numbers. They get phone calls all the time saying that they don't know why they can't get to their business because they have the wrong address on there, but they moved 10 years ago. And they have a 3-star review, and their competitors have 4.7 and 5-star reviews. So if you go online and you've spent all this money to do some advertising, and somebody goes and does a little bit of research and they see that your competitor has 5-star reviews, you just paid for that competitor's new customer. And so I tell people that's how to increase your ROI no matter what kind of advertising you do. So you make sure that your online presence isn't a leaky bucket, number one. But then number two, understand the actual buying cycle, buying sequence. People are not necessarily, are you a business that is, if you're a roofing industry, people are buying when they call roofers. They don't shop a lot for roofers. They might do a little bit of shopping, but they do it because they need it. They do shop for pizza. They do shop for clothes. They do shop for, so which kind of industry are you? So are you, and then where in the buying cycle are you going to do that advertising? So there's awareness, or when you have people that don't even know you exist. Then there's interest, then there's desire, and then there's conversion. And so where in that are you actually advertising? Most people try and start all of their advertising at conversion. And the problem with that is that most people aren't in the buying at that moment position. And so if you don't start to understand all the buying cycle, and then you don't know your audience, you don't know what they react to, and you don't know where they are, you literally you could be shotgun approaching, and you could just be pouring money into a leaky bucket. And so then you have advertising. And so I will say, pay-per-click advertising, every service industry should be doing that because they're at the end of the buying cycle. And so those are people that are looking to shop to buy now. And so pay-per-click advertising should be a line item on your budget. Lead generation advertising, which can be done with pay-per-click, can be done display advertising where you see it on your phone, or shopping advertising, or Facebook social media advertising. Those are kind of in the interest, lead generation, the brand awareness. That takes a budget. So you better have a budget for those kind of things, but those are at the beginning of the buying cycle. And then Facebook advertising is really good for businesses like Jessica's that are very visual. And so, but you have to know, and you have to know what you're selling. You're not always selling food, you're selling the experience.
Great advice. Great advice. Thank you. Zell, what legal and regulatory requirements should a new small business owner be aware of when starting a business?
Well, the first thing they need to know about is their legal structure. How do they set that up? And of course, they can operate underneath the DBA assumed name, or an LLC, LLP, if they're a professional organization, PLLCs. They just need to go to their county clerk, wherever they're living at or where their business is going to be located, and establish a assumed name underneath doing business as. And that will be taken care of. Typically, that will run them about $24.50 across most of the counties. That's pretty much average across the state of Texas. As far as the LLCs go, they are issued through the Secretary of State, and they will have to apply through the Secretary of State's portal. Depending on what type of LLC they're setting up, the cost can be anywhere. If it's a nonprofit, $15, and if it's a for-profit business, $300 up to the max, I think, is $750 that's listed on their website, and that's for professional organizations. Now, that will set up their legal structure, okay, so they'll be in compliance. That's basically for them to do business, because Texas does not have business licenses. Beyond that, they will have to go and obtain a federal employer identification number, or otherwise known as a TIN, through the IRS. Simple process, about 15 minutes online. They'll have it in their hand the same day. So if they wanted to set up a DBA, they could do that within an hour. They could get that done, have their EIN in their hand, and they basically have their business set up for that day. Beyond that regulatory compliance, they will have to contact the Texas State Comptroller and converse with them to understand what their tax responsibilities are to the state of Texas. If they have employees, they will definitely have to contact the state comptroller and the TWC to understand their employer insurance and costs that are associated with having employees, how to file for that. Beyond that, The other item that they may have to encounter is the Texas Department of License and Regulations. Depending on their industry, there may be compliance that they need to have with certain organizations within the state of Texas, and that will differ from business to business. There are small things where they have to have certification, or larger things where they have to meet certain requirements. Now, some of those requirements may move into other areas other than for their specific industry, like they may have to comply with environmental regulations if they're housing hazardous chemicals or anything of that nature. So we can provide them with that from the SBDC, because we can actually send them a listing so they don't have to go out and search for it. That's a good thing. It's not a difficult book to read through, but there is a lot of categories within there. And it's important for them to understand where they lie, where their industry lies within those categories, so they comply with them properly. Other than that, there's really not many other regulatory requirements for them to have.
Thank you. Dr. Mason, back on e-commerce, what challenges and opportunities does e-commerce present?
Well, the opportunities are broad-based throughout the economy to find a niche, an area that somebody else is not serving or they're not serving well, and create a better business than what they have, or a brand new business. The threats associated with e-commerce are that you go about it the wrong way, as several of the panel members have discussed. If you're not targeting the correct group, if you're not targeting the people where they are in the business cycle or the buying cycle, then that's a threat to your business. It should take a lot of research before you actually start to try and sell, to know what it is that the product is that you want to sell and what the market for it is. Nobody should say, well, I got laid off today, and so tomorrow I'm going to open a restaurant, or I'm going to open a small shop. It just shouldn't happen that way, despite the hope that you can start making money again quickly. You really need to do research. There's lots of competition out there. And you also have to know what your focus is. If your focus is to have this business for an extended period of time, maybe it be your lifelong business, you should take a different approach than if your goal is to find a niche and be bought up by some big company to buy you out and go on vacation. And those are very different kinds of approaches. And many companies are looking for the opportunity to be purchased by some big company and receive the revenues. And they don't necessarily go about it the right way, and they don't necessarily know who might buy them or the atmosphere in which that might take place. And so that makes it a difficult process.
Thank you. This question is for Holly and Jessica, or either and or. What are some cost-effective yet impactful marketing tactics that small businesses can implement with limited resources?
They gave me a microphone, guys, again, and I'm going to apologize again for waxing poetic and perhaps going off topic. What are the cost-effective strategies? Let me make sure I'm answering the right questions. And how do we, and the tactful, tell me that word again. Tactics. There we go. I think I'm a big fan of the researching component first. And if you're just starting out and you're counting every penny and trying to figure out how to go about this, there are a lot of resources out there, which quite frankly then gets overwhelming, right? And with all these free resources, how do we narrow it down to the ones that really matter to us? That's where, what are you trying to sell and who are you trying to sell it to? For a lot of us, when we start perhaps our first or the smaller of the businesses, and when we start them, it's because it's something we wanted, or we're trying to do something that people like us might enjoy, want, need. We found this niche because we also were looking for it. which makes it a lot easier to market to yourself. You know where you're hanging out. Are you hanging out at the ball fields? Are you hanging out on Instagram? Are you hanging out at networking opportunities, and perhaps a sponsorship booth might have been a really good approach today. So if you know your own self, now you can use you as your own test market, and and it's a little more fun to do the research, right? So again, this is pretty specific and pretty niche, and there's going to be a lot better and appropriate information as the other folks answer this. But the most cost effective is do something you're already doing and maybe start to make some notes about it. How do you research a company when you're looking for a roofer? When you're looking for your next sweater that you're going to buy? Where do you go? That's probably where you want to start putting some of your energy for your own business. Personally, I'm going to check a website. Do they even look credible? So what did I build first for Vagabond? We had a website. Was it perfect and e-commerce ready? Absolutely not. But we had something out there that had the right information for how to find us, and it had some of the static details that I needed you to know about Vagabond Pizza. And then where else did I hang out? I can doom scroll on Instagram like a boss, all right? So that's where I made sure Vagabond Pizza existed. We've got a pretty decent, in my very humble opinion, Instagram presence, because that's where I hang out, and I'm trying to market to. So those were my first couple pieces, and then I started to feel results from that, started to get a little overconfident, and then we branched into other options, right? And the more people I've got on my staff, the more people I meet as customers, start asking those questions. Where do you guys hang out? Where could I reach people like you, and do you want to help me do it, all right? I've got a few folks on staff. It may become apparent, and I've already mentioned, I'm not really good on TikTok. But I've got some younger folks on staff that really enjoy it. So they can help me learn and point me in the right directions. How do I become relevant there? Is it worth my time to become relevant there? And that helps me focus on those right places to make sure the energy we're spending isn't a leaky bucket, that I'm not putting, because time is also a pretty important resource as a small business owner or someone in a small business organization. Right? We're already stretched thin. I'm preaching to the choir. We've got more hats on than we know how to wear and balance. So we want to make sure when we're spending that energy and that time and that money that we're going to find some version of a return on it. So where are you? Because presumably, and this is presuming you are who you want to market to, and start there. Because there are a lot of resources. Maybe you don't get a branded website right off the bat. Maybe you use one of those free resources, and then all your media pieces are pointing back to it because maybe it's not as searchable yet. But you're still building that and making that mark on the internet that is specific to you. All right, Holly, you're up.
Okay, all right. So, I love everything she said. I would just say that for any business owner, there's a couple of pieces of advice. Know where all of your stuff is. When I said forensic marketing, I have walked into multi-million-dollar companies that had no idea who owned their domain, where their Facebook page was, how to get to, or an ex-employee was the one who had their Facebook business manager and ad account, and now you can't get into it. I have watched a lot of things like that happen. I've had to contact ex-girlfriends, ex-wives, all sorts of things to find the tools, the materials, because so many people want to say, oh, she's 21, she knows how to do it. She might, but she might not, and she might be gone in 2 months, okay? So you, as the business owner, need to have all of those things in places that you control. Then you need to know your numbers. I've had this conversation with multiple people and multiple things. One of the problems with a lot of businesses is they don't know their numbers and they're looking for an easy tactic to market, but they don't, never mind knowing what they're marketing, who they're speaking to, and their message, they don't know their numbers, so they don't know what numbers make sense with marketing. If you sell a $35 widget, you do not want to spend $50 to get a client unless it makes sense on the back end. So there's a lot of numbers that you need. So use these resources. Go to the SBDC. Go to places that will help you determine your numbers, because those are the ways that you can look for and use the things that make the most sense. So make sure you have control of things. Make sure you look online every so often at your own presence. Make sure you know your numbers, and then make sure you get some help. And I love what Jessica said, because there's so much that's free out there, but you can get overwhelmed with the free and then get analysis, paralysis by analysis, because you're looking at all the options and all the things. And because so many of them are free, we think that they should be easy, and we think that they should just work because they're free. But you still have an opportunity cost in that. You have time that it takes for you to learn how to do them and do them well. And especially if you spread it over 14 different places, and you're trying to build your own website, create your own online presence, build your own social media following, create all your own content, and all of these things, you are going to flail and maybe not do it well. You might do it well. Then nobody markets your business like you. So don't just hand off marketing, but get the right resources to help you with marketing. And sometimes the cheapest option is actually spending some money to get some help with it.
Perfect, thank you. We have just under 10 minutes left and a lot more questions to ask, but we would like to take this time to open the floor up to questions. You have a question? Okay.
Someone's a question for you, Holly, just because you mentioned the ex-girlfriend issue, Facebook, or boyfriend, or whatever it might be. Yeah. And because even for myself working in social, the way Facebook and Meta changes up that business side, it is infuriating. And you feel like, just as I figured out where some new stuff is, you go back. So when it comes to the business account in particular, who do you recommend that you do connect that to? And like for me, like a city entity, I want to attach it to
I do.
Because
I've been working with the city on this issue. Yes.
I want to attach it to like what would be maybe just communications but will Facebook let you do that? Who should you attach your account to?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's going to be a pretty specific conversation. I mean, because, yes, and I actually work with a client who the city is part of it, and that is an issue. So for a general business, and it has to be a Facebook account, what she was asking is, like, who should that be attached to? That's a hard answer right now. I mean, it's not a hard answer. It should be the business owner. But for a city or for a corporation, that's going to be a little bit more difficult, because Facebook, it has to be attached to a personal profile. So for most general businesses, I would definitely say it needs to be a person, and all of it needs to be set up correctly under that business owner's, but it could be something that could be transferred. So it's still a little tricky, and honestly, what we find is every time we go on, it's a whole different answer for every single client. So. Oh, good. Yes, good. Well, it makes me crazy every day. So.
Another question? Yes, in the back.
I was just curious, I had really good results with Google Ads in the past. I own a fireworks stand, but what I'm finding now is everybody has decided that fireworks are a restricted item, and I can no longer pay for advertising through the majority of the platforms. Is there a way that you would suggest to shift my marketing, since I can no longer buy the things that were productive for me and got me customers?
At me, or does anybody else want to tackle that one? Yeah, well, there are several restricted, in the medical industry, in the firearms industry, and then yes, fireworks. And so, so honestly, then I would go back to grassroots marketing. And so that's the hardest part, because Google Ads are lovely. They're they kind of work while you sleep. And so if you're looking for a replacement for that, probably not. Because even display ads, well, Facebook doesn't like it any more than Google does. Display ads are controlled by Google, so you really are limited in that regard. So then I'd just go back to grassroots marketing, which is your hardest marketing, but it also develops your best clientele. And so then I would begin capturing. I teach a lot about putting a fence around my clients because they can go to any fireworks stand. But if you can build a clientele that comes back repeatedly and communicate with them, that's your best marketing. So it doesn't give you the answer you wanted, but hopefully it helps you a little bit.
Can you explain what you mean by grassroots marketing?
Oh, yeah, well, Jessica could take that one. I know. But grassroots marketing is honestly, I said at the beginning, a lot of people come to me because they want the easy button. What they're wanting is for all of this advertising to just bring the people. Well, what did you have to do 30 years ago? You put it in, you might have had a newspaper, you might have had it, but grassroots marketing is essentially foot traffic marketing. Go talk to the people, go connect with people, go network, go do the things that reach your audience, and it's actually you doing it. And so you can do grassroots marketing online, which is exactly what Jessica described quite a bit, or it's going in person and doing that, connecting with non-competing businesses, but businesses that have your actual audience. And so doing some things that connect with those, doing business expos, doing things like pop-up shops. Those kind of things are grassroots marketing. You might have some more answers for that.
I think I'm going to tag in on Holly's make friends. All right? One, your personal connections, right? Mom's probably your first customer anyway. Lean on that. Your bestie, that's your second customer. And now start using those. One, practice how to talk to them with the people that you're already comfortable talking with. And then when you get the opportunity to talk to people you don't know yet, take it. That's that time and energy component. I am not making $1 million today to be your speaker. And I'm sure most of you realize I am not worth $1 million today to be your speaker. But I took that opportunity. I could be selling pizza right now, but right now I'm trying to make sure that I'm getting in front of people that may not have even known Vagabond Pizza was here in downtown Abilene at 1056 North 2nd Street. Or I'm getting the idea in your head that, you know what, we haven't had pizza in a week or two. Maybe we need to pop over there. And so did I come in wearing a Vagabond Pizza t-shirt? No. Do I have it on my cup in case you want to just slowly take a gander at what I'm doing and then ask me a question? Yes, grassroots marketing is marketing where the people are. And sometimes it is marketing yourself. Sometimes it's marketing your experience. Sometimes it is being available to talk to people because they have questions about Vagabond Pizza, or just because they're people and you want to get to know them. Grassroots marketing isn't necessarily an instant button. It is the long game. It is making those connections. It is hoping that I can get you to think about pizza, so next time you're hungry, you've got a few more dollars to spend, because we don't always have that. So I may not see you today for lunch, mostly because we're getting lunch here today. But next week, when you're already busy and you've got the kids out and about and we're a little strapped for time, but a glass of wine sounds really nice. Ooh, yeah, there's that pizza spot downtown. Maybe we should go try them out. That's grassroots marketing. Now, how do we do that online? How do we do that in an e-commerce space? That's where those friends come back into play. Who else do I know or who else do I work with that might also be able to partner with a pizza shop? I've got there's different entities in downtown Abilene. There's boutiques next door that we could do some partnerships with. There's pop-ups that are around that we can generate some buzz, and so maybe some of their clients now want to eat pizza, and maybe some of my clients need some new flowers in their lives. But sharing those people when you've got a similar clientele, make those friends. Do some social marketing together, so that way you can be the grassroots for each other. Clear as a bell? Yeah.
As far as like ranking higher in Google with their websites, what would you say is the most weighted or important, like as far as backlinks or reviews or referring IPA?
Yes.
Or just anything like that?
Jessica?
What would be your strategy because pizza's obviously competitive and there's tons of them here, so what have you found to be most helpful?
That's where I haven't gone down the tactical, got my word right this time, practices that Holly's about to tell you. That's another one where if the resource opens itself up to me, I try to follow that. So in the website program that I use, there's some SEO components in there. It's literally, do you have the time to fill in this detail so we do the SEO for you? Yes, I'm going to make that time, right? When that opportunity is in front of me. but I wish I had the marketing genius and energy to tell you a whole bunch of checklist items. Take advantage of the work that's there. I'm so sorry that I'm going to pitch this to the professionals on whether it's backlinks, SEO, Google search words. Sorry.
Okay. I will tell you again, it goes back to having good information. So what I always try to tell people, there's a lot of buzzwords with things like SEO. There's a lot of things. And all of those things are important. So I'm not negating their importance, but you got to understand what Google's job is. If you walk into the library and you ask the librarian to help you find a book, she's got a system to find that book for you. That is what Google is. It is the librarian who is going through a gazillion places to find you the thing that you need. So you've got to think like that. And you want to think, what do they need to know about me, to be able to find me? Because Google, they're not out to not rank you. That's not the point. But they're also not out to rank you. What Google's job is to find the relevant piece of information that they're looking for. So when somebody puts that information in, they ask a question, their job is to find the relevant piece of information. So it's not, so all of those things that you mentioned, all of the things can be extremely important. However, start with the right information. Look at the words that do you answer the questions that people are actually looking for? So it's not even, don't start with the backlink, start with the content. Start with the information that helps them find you and what you actually do and what service you actually provide. And then look at the words that you're using. Because if the words you're using are things like great customer service, there's not a soul on this world I've ever met that searches for great customer service, because that should be a given. So tell people why, what do you do that's different? What does that mean to your client? How does that solve a problem for them? Because that's what most people go for, is they don't go for a product, they go searching for the answer to a problem. And so if you'd put as much of that on there as you can, and in words that make sense to the people, act like you're describing it to your mother. And make sure that she can understand exactly what you do and how you solve those problems. And I promise you probably won't struggle a lot with SEO. Now, if you're trying to do national SEO, then we got to talk about all those things that you talked about.
We are over time, but thank you for your questions and your attendance. I'd like to give our panel a round of applause for their expert advice. And I'm sure if you have further questions, this panel would be happy to answer those off stage. Thank you. Thank you for being here.